Okay, he says that we live in a counterculture. We live in a culture at war with the proper understanding of mastery. That's right. We're results oriented, and is this is a summative. This is a huge, expansive type of a way of looking at things. You're paying attention rather than focusing, and so that deserves a little bit of a comment. I often ask my class, and guys, once again, I'm so sorry that we have to do this via video. I try to make my classes dynamic and entertaining, for gosh sakes. But one of the things I always challenge my students with, the difference between paying attention and focusing, is what do you focus on when you're driving? Now, you may get sucked in, you may get fished in and go, oh, my speed. No, no, no. You can't, you can't focus on anything. You can't focus on anything. You have to pay attention to the entire enchilada. You got to pay attention to everything from that sign, that orange light, the amber light that just changed and getting ready to go red. Uh, the guy next to you, the guy behind you, that billboard, that group of people that's crossing the street. You have to take it all in. You can't focus on one thing. You sit there and you concentrate on your speed, on your speedo. You're gonna miss. You're gonna run into somebody, or somebody's gonna run into you. So anyway, it's just a way of explaining the difference. You have to pay attention to everything, and it's going to be exhausting, guys. It's going to be exhausting. I invite you all to try this because this is nothing. Uh, it's you don't have to sit on a mountaintop eating lotus blossoms for the next 20 years. No, you can practice this. Do it for a little while and then take some time off and then go back to it and take some time off and notice. And by the way, make use of your journal. Make use of your journal. You can write down some of your experiments and some of your trials and see how exhausting it can be, because once you get on this path and you start noticing the amount of time you spend screwing around and just not doing anything, and especially doing things that are of no value, it may be a little bit of a life changer for you. So anyway, he says that we live in a culture at war with proper understanding of mastery. It's based upon relentless self-improvement is what mastery is, the pursuit of mastery, not being a master, because it's the process of getting better rather than getting best. Whenever you talk to somebody, me being in the medical field, how you doing? Oh, I'm doing better. I have yet to hear anybody. Oh, I'm best. I'm done. I'm best. No. Of course, illustrating absurdity with absurdity. Anyway, he goes on to say we tend to see life as an uninterrupted series of successful climaxes without consideration of the effort, the pauses, the plateaus, the setbacks that'll inevitably be encountered. Now, uh, I always make a point of saying this too, for you trainers and coaches. People coming to you looking for a little guidance, looking for mentorship, looking for some advice. How long is this going to take? The rest of your life? Is it going to hurt? Yeah, it's going to be very uncomfortable. See, if we could say things like that right out of the gate, we would dispel it. But no, 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 no. We tried it. We tried to dance around it. No, no, no. Couch it in these terms, et cetera, et cetera. No, if you just shot from the hip and said, no, it's going to be uncomfortable for pretty much the rest of your life. The neat thing is the things you're going to be exploring and experiencing as a consequence is where the magic lies. But we all know uh, that life is not an uninterrupted series of successful climaxes. There are going to be pauses, there are going to be plateaus, and there's going to be a lot of setbacks. And you probably already experienced them. Hell, you're experiencing it right now with sitting here on the other end of this PowerPoint and listening to a faceless voice. So anyway, let's go on here. He said, we expect a certain level of excitement and interest in any experience, and we become quickly bored. Hey, hey, welcome to my world, ADHD. Yeah, quickly bored. Yeah, I think I'll have that put as my epitaph, because I am. Well, I'm not really quickly bored. It's just I'm easily distracted, and that's a very different type thing. It's not that I'm bored. It's just that I'm enchanted with so many things so often spontaneously. Please pay attention to this one. We adopt a quick fix and bottom line mentality. Now, This is actually brilliant. How many times have someone has been trying to explain something to you, and you get impatient, you look at your watch, you go, look, yeah, okay, just tell me what I need to know. Well, okay, here's what you need to know. The problem with that is I've given you specifically what you need to know, but I haven't given you the surrounding information that makes it operational, that makes it useful, so you can actually do it. I've told you what you got to do, but I haven't told you how to do it. As a matter of fact, here, harken back just a few moments ago, guys, just a few moments ago, I told you at the very beginning of the semester, I'm going to give you the entire semester in 2 words. Here, you want the bottom line? Pay attention. And if I left you with that, that would be all you'd have, and you'd derive nothing. So resist the temptation to adopt a quick fix and bottom line mentality. There are things that you need to know that make those. You've heard the devil in the details? Yes, yes. You need something to make it sensible and above all operational. But that's brilliant. Resist the temptation to adopt the quick fix and bottom line mentality. Catch yourself next time you're tempted when somebody's letting and droning on and on and on and on, and you just go, look, you get to the point. Yeah. Okay. We're told to set goals, measure our advances, and to expect continuous progress towards our goals. Right. Continuous progress. And of course, even looking at that right now, print on the page, you know that that's not true. However, you still expect it. You know that you're not going to make continuous progress, but you still expect it. It's kind of a weakness that it's a human thing, a human weakness. He says even happiness itself is defined in terms of reaching those goals. Yeah, if you win, then you're a winner. If you don't, then you failed. And QED, you are a failure. It's a very, very easy little leap of faith that you can make, and people do quite a bit. And I see it in my practice all the time. So um, it's fairly common. All right, let's get into just talking about the master here. The master is very different from most people because the master is paying attention all the time. Uh, Again, the master is a master, but he's pursuing mastery. So the master's learning curve rises quickly, then it plateaus. And with consistent practice, it rises again with some regression, then plateaus again, and so on. Point he's trying to make here is it's not just a continuous 45-degree upward slope of gain and gain and gain and gain and achievement, achievement and achievement. No, no. Man, sometimes I really welcome those brief moments where everything does appear to go right because I recognize it as being not what should be and not what is common, but what is not common. And that's why I appreciate it because it doesn't happen all the time. So the master knows that mastery is a lifetime path. Gosh, have we heard that before? Yes, we have. Yeah, it's a lifetime path, lifelong learning. You're going to be doing it all along. And this is in direct contrast to the way that we see things here in the West because typically we do things until. Until when? Well, until the party, until the cruise, until you see him or her again, until, and then what? Well, the implication is after that, hell, it's right back to defiling myself. I'm done with this. Well, the master enjoys living on the plateau. Why? Why would he enjoy living on the plateau? Because don't you want to achieve? No. The master knows that while on the plateau, learning is happening and practice will inevitably lead to a higher level. Now, this deserves a little bit of explanation. Here in the goal setting, what are we always trying to do? Where are we trying to take our game? We're trying to take our game to, quote, the next level. And that makes it look like we're making a step up here to this next level. Well, mastery and pursuing mastery is a three-dimensional model. It's spherical. It's not a circle. It's a sphere. 3 dimensions, X, Y, and Z axis. Harken back to analytic geometry right there. Anyway, the next level is not the next level at all. The next level is another layer of onion. As you begin to grow and develop and work on this self-improvement, you grow your sphere gets bigger. You don't just keep going up on a next level. You add another layer and you get bigger. And this is why you are able to take this you, whatever you are, and the person that you're becoming, anywhere you go. Doesn't matter if it's on the field, the pitch, the court, the track, or whether it's with your parents, or whether you're at school, or whether you're at work, or in social circumstances. It really doesn't matter. No matter where you go, there you are. So learning is happening, and practice will inevitably lead to a higher level. However, the higher level is not the point. That's not why you're doing it. You're doing it to improve yourself. Big difference. Remember, A to B, everything depends upon reaching B. Here, if you don't improve yourself with this particular action, oh, why don't you reposition your chair and get a little bit more comfortable? And there you go. That's another thing that you've done, and you've improved yourself. Oh, and move your mouse a little bit. There you go. That's much more comfortable. See, little tiny things like this. Kaizen. Kaizen. All right. Well, Master Leonard talks about the 5 master keys, and we'll talk about all 5 of these. I'll just kind of go through them. In a proper instruction, not just any instruction, but proper instruction. Practice. You're going to see this is probably a hallmark to most everything that we're going to be talking about here. You see that is paying attention. And what's the important part about paying attention? That you persist and you keep paying attention. That's the thing. That's what they talk about when they talk in terms of staying on the path. Well, what is that? Well, that's continue to pay attention. So you continue to work on self-improvement. Surrender. I'm a military man. I don't like the word. But anyway, you accommodate errors. You know you're going to encounter them, so you accommodate them. You don't tolerate them necessarily, and you certainly don't like them. But you understand that it's a necessary part of being in the mix. Intentionality, you're doing this purposefully, and then the edge we'll talk about. Let's talk about instruction here. Okay, it says instructor credentials are important, but look how they work with students of different levels. Now, you guys, unfortunately, man, if you were in class, I'd have an entire lecture on this, because you would see that I'm different from most of the professors you've ever experienced. I move around the class. I stalk around the lecture hall. I'm moving all the time. I don't sit up there behind the podium and just read stuff. I'm challenging. I'm looking you dead in the eye, and I'm seeing if you're locking on. I'm seeing if you're getting it. And if I see that you get it, then we'll move on. But if I see that there's a lot of people looking at me with quizzical looks, or even the children of the corn, like, what? Then I'll go back and I'll readdress that particular point from a different perspective. I'll use another example. If that still isn't working, I'll use a literary reference, a film reference. I'll tell a joke. I'll tell an anecdote, a little vignette from my past, whatever it is. But that's it. So that everybody can kind of get a piece of the action, and everybody can build a framework and flesh it out a little bit on the concepts that we're talking about. And I'm hoping that I'm effectively doing that while I'm talking to you here. I'm doing the very best I can, but hey, a good instructor will point out both the good and the bad. Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah, it's great. You're doing great. But what do we point out? Typically, if you're a coach, and you're probably guilty of this because you've taken it from other coaches, what do we focus on? The stuff you screwed up. Again, if I gave you a test and I graded it, handed it back to you, you'd only look at 2 things. You'd look at the grade itself, and then you'd look at what you missed. You wouldn't look at the things you got right. Why? Well, I got it right. I don't need to look at that. I need to look at, it's what's known as management by exception, and it permeates everything that we do. We tend to look and we spend time and we attend to things that are not right. We don't give ourselves credit necessarily for the things that we do get right. He goes on to say, do not follow a guru. Instead, allow yourself to be taught by a teacher. Yeah, taught by a teacher. There's a difference between being, boy, I don't know if I want to get into those weeds. Here, let me use this example. Any of you work in sales? Well, there's a difference between being a salesperson and being an order taker. An order taker is the person who stands behind the counter. You come in, you're already sold. You just tell them what you want, and they go, "Will that be all?" And then they run it through the cash register or across the scanner. Salesperson, on the other hand, is an amazing psychologist. It is a they possess mastery of the human interaction and human condition. I've got some friends of mine. I know one. Every time I give this lecture, I think of her. She is just insane. She's so good at sales. Here's the point I'm trying to make. I don't mean to get too off base here, but just as with a teacher, with sales, she could sell anything. In other words, the product or the service that she's selling is entirely secondary. It's her being able to match your perceived needs with whatever she has. And boy, putting those two things together, it's the same thing. A teacher, for a real teacher, the subject matter is immaterial. It's secondary. They can teach anything to anybody because they're communication specialists. That's the key. I think that's really where I'm going with this. Well, he goes on to understand teachers are not perfect. Well, duh. Know the difference between a master and a master of teaching. That's just what I got finished saying. That's exactly right. Um, wow. Knowing it's time to say goodbye to a teacher is another important point. I'm hesitating here about knowing the difference between being a master and a master of teaching. There's a lot to be said with that, but we've got so much to go over here. I don't necessarily want to get too bogged down. But knowing it's time to say goodbye to a teacher, yes, yeah. I've I have personally mentored 5 doctors have been under my major staff. So I've chaired their committees and I've shepherded them through. And then when after they're hooded, I embrace them and shake their hand, and you're on your way. I can't teach you anything more. You know what you need to do now to go discover it on your own. All right, let's get into practice. Well, practice, he has a different way of looking at things. Practice is not something you do, it's a gift you give yourself, and it's something you are. It's so integral. If you're an athlete, you already know this. But remember, not everybody is an athlete. So to you, if this makes perfect sense, practice, practice, practice. Yes, of course. And to those who don't understand that, well, this is trusting in the process of practice. That if you practice and you engage in proper practice, you're probably going to improve. For a master, the rewards are fine, but it's not the purpose of the journey. The purpose of the journey, once again, to refresh your memory, is self-improvement. You got to love the practice. You got to love it. You got to embrace it. It's got to be something you look forward to. And sometimes it'll fade you. It'll fail you. I don't know about you, but there are times when I walk into the dojang or the dojo or the kun or the gym, and I'll have all intentions of going in there and working up a sweat, and I have been known to just stand there at the doorway and just go, you know what? No, not today. No, and be able to say that. Now, if you say that all the time, then of course that's counterproductive. But once in a while, listen to yourself. There's something else going on here. You might want to, again, make use of your journal. And master is consistent practice and staying on the path, again. Practice of self-improvement. Here again, surrender. Surrender the teacher and the demands of the discipline. That's right. I remember Sir Winston Churchill. I think I gave you this. While I'm very fond of learning, sometimes I'm a bit resistant to being taught. So I think that's great. And you'd have to be a student of Sir Winston to understand that. But I love this. Surrender. Be willing to look like a fool. Now, this is a big one. And those of you who are coaches or especially those of you who are going to be trainers, probably going to encounter this. A lot of people are afraid of looking foolish or afraid of looking stupid or whatever. And encourage them not to be. Don't fear the reaper. Get on out there and get into it and then get better and get past that. Um, Sometimes it will require a little bit of explanation, sometimes a little encouragement. But remember, that's why they're seeing you. And that's why I'm so adamant about this, guys. I'm so adamant. This is your only exposure to sport psychology. And yet, something that I was told when I was in paramedic training back in the 70s. I remember Dr. Say said, if we were meeting in the library, and she's looking around, she goes, "Look, the answer to any of your questions is in these books right here. We can teach you all of this, but all you got to do is look it up. It's in one of these books. The one thing we cannot teach you, and the one thing that we can't help you with, is establishing your patient legs." And that means establishing the psychological rapport, the trust, the relationship that's going to exist between you and your charge. And it's going to be something, if those of you who are people persons and think you probably know who you are, you're probably going to have a much easier time with this than those of you who have more difficult interpersonal skill problems. So anyway, satisfaction lies in mindful repetition, finding endless richness in subtle variations on familiar themes. And this one sentence sums up what practice is, because practice is just doing the same stuff over and over and over and over and over and over. And sometimes it can get really monotonous. You think about swimming. Oh my God, come on! How many laps do you have to take, and where is it going to be different? It's not different at all. It's the same doggone thing, time after time after time after time. Well, coach, trainer, how are you going to keep it fresh? How are you going to do that? Oh, power lifter. Here, you're going to jerk that weight up, put it over your head, drop it, bang, done. Okay. Oh, go do it again. What do you mean? Do it again? Oh, okay. Well, what's going to be different about this? Well, that's up to you. That's how you find endless richness in subtle variations on familiar themes. So be thinking about that. That should plant a seed for you. That if you're doing something, regardless of how much passion you have for it, it can get repetitive and read monotonous after a while. So it's up to you to come up with innovative ways to try to keep it fresh. There are times, oh, pardon me. There are times when it's necessary to give up hard-won competency to advance to the next stage. Yeah, and sometimes this happens when you change teams. Sometimes it happens when you change coaches. It can happen in a variety of ways. Matter of fact, a couple of years ago, I remember a college player, a football player, who was he was a receiver, and he was good. He was actually a tight end, but he just really wasn't. He was good, but he wasn't that good until a coach looked at him and said, "You ever thought about defense, son? You ever thought about being a linebacker?" And that's what happened. And as he switched, he had to give up all of this on offense, but he maintained his all that knowledge and he took that to the defense, and it was just whoa! His career skyrocketed, and he's still in the NFL. Amazing that would happen at that late a date too, and this was in his collegiate time. And this is especially true when stuck at familiar and comfortable levels of skill. And we all know about comfort and comfort zones and how to stay out of those. Well, intentionality, just briefly on this. I don't know if any of you use visualization. Some people do. I do occasionally. I like to think things through. But I tend to when I start to visualize, this is just my ADHD, I get sidetracked and it gets into fantasy and I go on mind trips. Uh, so I'm so easily distracted. So visualization, it's there if you wish. What he's trying to talk about here is the purposeful, mindful, and meaningful nature of whatever it is you're doing. This requires a little bit of introspection so that you have a clear understanding of what the dickens you're doing and why you're doing it. And not the why. Don't fall into the trap of thinking that it's one reason. There are reasons, plural, for why you're doing what you're doing. I'm going to make it real simple for you. Take a look at your pursuit of a kinesiology degree. Now, was this your first major? Did you change your major and eventually found this one? Okay, then why are you doing this? What is it about kinesiology that has attracted you? Now, you see, if you try to limit this to one thing, you're going to bind yourself. You're going to artificially tie your own hands. Instead, think of the reasons, plural. And here's a prediction that I'll make. The reasons that brought you to kinesiology are not the reasons that will keep you in kinesiology. And the things that brought you and the things that keep you are not necessarily the same things that are going to get you through. Now, if you want a little mind exercise, go ahead and challenge yourself and in your journal, write down some of the reasons. Don't self edit. In other words, don't go, oh, now that's stupid. No, you thought it, write it down. Don't self edit. You're looking for as many reasons as you possibly can. And then keep track of them. See if they still apply. See if that reason is still number one, or is the reason still exists, but now it's like number 7. So things have a habit of changing. And yeah, thoughts, images, and feelings play into success. Of course they do. After you have a drink and maybe a sandwich, and come on back for part 2, and we'll see if I can keep this going. All right, guys. See you in part 2.